December 13th, 1944, Manila. American soldier John Jacobs boards the Japanese ship Oryoku Maru with 1,618 other prisoners of war. In 6 days, 1,333 of them will be dead. They're locked in a cargo hold the size of a tennis court, 750 men in pitch darkness. The temperature rises to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. No water. No food, almost no air. Men start drinking their own urine. The first one dies after 9 hours. His brain literally cooked inside his skull. Bodies rot among the living. People lose their minds, screaming, fighting to the death for a sip of water. John hears his brothers in arms suffocating, one by one. When American planes bomb the ship, the guards push prisoners into the water, then shoot those trying to swim to shore. 400 yards to safety. John watches sharks tear apart drowning men. Watches a Japanese officer slice off a man's fingers with a sword as he tries to climb into a lifeboat. But an American soldier never surrenders. Not when his body weighs just 120 pounds. Not when he's lost all hope. The strength of the human spirit. That's the one thing they can't take from a prisoner of war. Today you'll learn the most horrifying story of World War II that no one talks about. The story of the Hellships, where surviving was more terrifying than dying. But one man survived, and this is his story. December 13th, 1944, 900, Manila Bay, Philippines. The sun burns mercilessly over Pier 7 as 1619 American prisoners of war shuffle toward the rusty hull of the Oryoku Maru. Among them stands John M. Jacobs, prisoner number 463, his skeletal frame bearing the marks of 30 months in Japanese captivity. In 6 days, 1,333 of these men will be dead. This is his story, reconstructed from declassified National Archives documents, survivor testimonies given under oath, and military tribunal records. Every name is real. Every date is verified. Every horror actually happened. The metal deck radiates heat like a furnace as John Jacobs steps aboard the Oryoku Maru at 10:30. The ship, a 7,362-ton passenger cargo vessel requisitioned by the Imperial Japanese Navy, will become his coffin. He doesn't know this yet. He carries nothing but the rags on his back and memories of Bilibid Prison, where he spent the last 8 months working 12-hour shifts at Lasang Airfield under the Philippine sun. The guards scream in Japanese, shoving prisoners toward the forward hold. John moves with the crowd, descending the ladder into darkness. The hold is designed to carry cargo, not human beings. It measures approximately 60 feet by 40 feet. Into this space, the guards pack 750 men. By 11 o'clock, the last prisoner descends into the hold. The hatch closes above them with a sound like thunder. Darkness swallows everything. John feels bodies pressing against him from all sides. The air is already thick, humid, suffocating. The temperature inside the hold hovers near 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Within an hour, it will climb higher. "How many are down here?" someone whispers in the darkness. "Too many," another voice answers. "Way too many." John recognizes the voice of Commander Arthur Marr, a naval officer from his work detail at Lasang. Marr served on the USS Houston before its sinking in the Battle of Sunda Strait in March 1942. Like John, he survived that battle only to become a prisoner. Like John, he worked building runways for Japanese aircraft. Unlike John, Marr will not survive the next 6 days. The ship's engines rumble to life at 1400. The Oryoku Maru begins moving slowly through Manila Bay, part of a convoy heading north toward Japan. In the hold, 750 men feel the deck shift beneath them. Many have dysentery. There are no toilets. There are no buckets. There is only the floor and the bodies of other men. "Water," someone croaks. "Need water." But there is no water. The guards promised water after departure. They lied. The only liquid in the hold is the sweat pouring from 750 bodies, the urine of men who can no longer hold their bladders, and the diarrhea of those suffering from diseases contracted in prison camps. By 1600, the temperature in the hold exceeds 110 degrees. Men begin removing their clothes. They gasp for air that provides no oxygen. The single ventilator cut into the deck pushes hot air down into the hold, offering no relief. Some men position themselves directly beneath it, fighting for the minimal circulation it provides. "Back up!" voices shout. "Everyone needs air!" But desperation makes animals of civilized men. Fights break out near the ventilator. Bodies slam against bodies. In the darkness, no one can see who strikes whom. Blood flows from split lips and broken noses. The guards above hear the commotion and laugh. John presses himself against the bulkhead, trying to find space to breathe. Next to him, a young private named Theodore Wilson mutters prayers. Wilson arrived at Bilibid only 3 weeks ago, transferred from Cabanatuan camp. His body is not yet adapted to the starvation rations. He weighs perhaps 90 pounds. "Hold on, kid," John whispers. "Just hold on." "I can't breathe," Wilson gasps. "I can't breathe." "Yes, you can. Focus on slow breaths, in and out. Slow." Night falls outside, but inside the hold, darkness remains absolute. Time loses meaning. Men cry out for water, for air, for mercy. Some call for their mothers. Others simply scream, their minds breaking under the pressure of heat and thirst and confinement. At approximately 2200, according to later testimony from survivor Colonel Jack Schwartz, the first man dies. His name is Private First Class Robert Hammond, age 21, from Ohio. His death is not peaceful. He thrashes and convulses, gasping for air that will not come. His body temperature exceeds 108 degrees. He is experiencing hyperthermia and severe dehydration. His brain is cooking inside his skull. When Hammond finally stops moving, the men around him don't immediately realize he's dead. Bodies press so tightly together that his corpse remains upright, held in place by the living. Only when someone tries to push him aside and feels the absolute limpness of his limbs does the truth become clear. "He's dead," someone announces. "Hammond's dead." The words ripple through the hold. Men count hours since boarding. 9 hours without water. 9 hours in heat exceeding 110 degrees. And now, the first death. It will not be the last. John closes his eyes and tries to remember water. He remembers the well behind his family's house in Nebraska. He remembers the cool, clean taste of it in summer. He remembers drawing bucket after bucket and never worrying that the well would run dry. He remembers these things and tries not to think about the burning in his throat, the way his tongue has swollen and cracked, the way his lips have split and begun to bleed. December 14th, 1944, 0300. The convoy continues north through the South China Sea. In the hold of the Oryoku Maru, the death count reaches 7. The bodies cannot be removed. The hatch remains sealed. The living must share space with the dead. Men have begun drinking their own urine. John watches them in the faint light that filters through the ventilator at dawn. They cup their hands and collect the warm liquid, bringing it to their lips with desperate urgency. Some vomit immediately, others keep it down, their bodies so dehydrated that they will accept any moisture. "Don't," John tells Theodore Wilson when the young private moves to do the same. "It'll make you sicker." "I don't care," Wilson says. His voice is barely a whisper, his vocal cords swollen. "I need something." John has no answer. He is a truck driver from Omaha who enlisted in 1941 expecting to see the world. He saw it. He saw the fall of Bataan in April 1942. He saw the Bataan Death March, where 75,000 Filipino and American prisoners walked 65 miles in tropical heat with no food or water. He saw thousands die on that march. He survived it and thought he had seen the worst humanity could offer. He was wrong. At 07 o'clock, the hatch opens. Sunlight blinds the prisoners. Guards throw down 3 buckets of rice and 2 buckets of water for 750 men. The riot that follows is immediate and savage. Men fight with their fists, with their teeth, with anything they have. The strong take from the weak die. John does not fight. He learned in Bilibid that the fights waste more energy than the food provides. He waits. When the riot subsides, he finds a handful of rice scattered on the deck. He picks up each grain carefully, mindfully, like a meditation. He eats slowly, forcing his shrunken stomach to accept the food. The hatch closes again at 07:30. 30 minutes of light, 30 minutes of slightly cooler air. Then back into the darkness, the heat, the smell of death and excrement and despair. Commander Maher has positioned himself near the front of the hold, close to the bulkhead separating the cargo space from the ship's stores. He can hear water sloshing on the other side. Fresh water, hundreds of gallons. Separated from 750 dying men by 3 inches of steel. "We could break through," Maher tells the men around him. "The bulkhead here is thin. We could kick it down." "The guards will shoot us," someone replies. "We're dying anyway," Maher says. His voice carries the authority of his rank, the certainty of a man who has nothing left to lose. "At least this way we die fighting." A vote is taken in whispers. The decision is unanimous. They will attempt to breach the bulkhead. At 0900, the kicking begins. 20 men take turns slamming their feet against the steel wall. The sound echoes through the hold. Above, guards hear the noise and rush to investigate. They open the hatch and shine lights down into the darkness. "Stop!" they scream in broken English. "Stop or we shoot!" The kicking continues. The men have made their choice. Bullets or dehydration. A quick death or a slow one. The guards open fire. Rifle shots crack through the hold. Bullets ricochet off steel walls. Men scream. Blood sprays in the darkness. John presses himself flat against the deck, making himself as small as possible. Next to him, Theodore Wilson takes a bullet through the shoulder. The young private gasps, but does not cry out. "Hold pressure on it," John tells him, guiding Wilson's hand to the wound. "Keep pressure." The shooting continues for 3 minutes. When it stops, 12 men are dead or dying. The bulkhead remains intact. The water remains unreachable. The guards close the hatch and leave the prisoners in darkness. Wilson is bleeding badly. In the faint light from the ventilator, John can see the exit wound in the young man's back. The bullet passed completely through, severing major blood vessels. Wilson needs immediate medical attention. He will not receive it. "I'm cold," Wilson whispers. This is the paradox of shock and blood loss. While the hold remains above 110 degrees, Wilson's body temperature drops as his blood pressure plummets. "Stay with me," John says, though he knows it's futile. He has seen too many men die to maintain illusions. "Keep talking to me." "Tell my mother," Wilson begins, then stops. He lacks the strength to finish the sentence. He dies at 0947, his hand clutching John's arm. John holds him for another hour before rigor mortis sets in and he can no longer distinguish the living flesh from the dead. By noon on December 14th, the death count in the forward hold reaches 32. The bodies have begun to rot in the tropical heat. The smell is beyond description. Men vomit until their stomachs are empty, then continue retching. Some have gone insane, babbling incoherently or screaming without pause. Others have retreated into catatonia, staring at nothing, responding to nothing. John tries to count the hours, but his mind refuses to cooperate. Dehydration affects cognition. His thoughts move slowly, sluggishly, like oil in cold weather. He knows he boarded the ship yesterday morning. He knows approximately 30 hours have passed. But the knowledge seems distant, unimportant. What matters is the next breath, the next heartbeat, the stubborn refusal to die. At 1400, the ship's engines change pitch. The Oryoku Maru is slowing down. Through the hull, prisoners can hear anchor chains rattling. The ship has stopped. They have reached their first destination, Subic Bay. Hope flickers in the darkness. Perhaps the guards will allow them off the ship. Perhaps there will be water, food, medical attention for the wounded. Perhaps the nightmare is ending. It is not ending. It is only beginning. December 14, 1944, 1600, Subic Bay. The hatch opens and guards order all prisoners on deck. They climb the ladder slowly, their legs cramping from 30 hours of immobility. The sunlight burns their eyes. The fresh air makes them dizzy. John emerges from the hold and looks around. The Oryoku Maru is anchored approximately 400 yards from shore. Around it, the rest of the convoy floats peacefully in the calm water. Japanese sailors go about their duties, ignoring the skeletal figures emerging from below decks. On shore, palm trees sway in the breeze. The scene is almost peaceful. The guards line the prisoners up on deck in rows of 10. They count them. They recount them. They argue in Japanese, their voices sharp with irritation. The count is wrong. Too few prisoners. A guard descends into the hold and returns quickly, his face pale. He reports to his superior officer. More guards descend. They emerge dragging bodies. The prisoners watch as corpse after corpse is thrown overboard. They count silently. 32 dead in 30 hours. "Water!" someone shouts from the ranks. "Please, water!" A guard approaches with a canteen. For a moment, hope surges. Then the guard pours the water onto the deck, watching it pool and evaporate in the sun. He laughs. Other guards join in the laughter. At 1700, a sound cuts through the air. A sound that brings terror to Japanese sailors and hope to American prisoners. The sound of aircraft engines. U.S. Navy planes from the carrier USS Hornet appear over the horizon. They have been searching for Japanese convoys. They have found one. The first bomb falls at 1707. It misses the Oryoku Maru by 50 yards, sending up a massive column of water. The second bomb hits the ship aft of where the prisoners stand, blowing a hole in the deck and killing 20 Japanese sailors. "Abandon ship!" Japanese officers scream. But the prisoners have no life jackets. Many cannot swim. Guards begin pushing them overboard anyway, using rifle butts to force them over the rail. John stands at the edge, looking down at the water 20 feet below. He sees bodies floating. Some move, some don't. Another bomb hits the stern. The explosion throws John off his feet. When he stands, flames are spreading across the aft deck. Black smoke billows into the sky. The ship is listing to starboard. John jumps. The water is warm, almost blood temperature. He surfaces, gasping, and looks around. Hundreds of men thrash in the water. Some swim toward shore. Others simply float, too weak to move. Japanese guards in the water shoot at prisoners trying to swim to shore, forcing them back toward the burning ship. John treads water, conserving his strength. He watches another wave of American planes approach. They see the prisoners in the water now, see the American faces looking up, and veer away without dropping their bombs. But the damage is done. The Oryoku Maru is sinking. Japanese sailors have launched lifeboats. They pull their own men from the water, leaving the prisoners to drown. Some prisoners try to climb into the boats. Guards push them back with oars, cracking skulls and breaking fingers. One prisoner manages to grab the side of a lifeboat. A guard brings a sword down on his hands, severing his fingers. The man falls back into the water, leaving trails of blood. John begins swimming toward shore. The distance is 400 yards. He swims slowly, pacing himself, stopping frequently to float and rest. Around him, men drown. They call for help. They beg for rescue. John cannot help them. He can barely help himself. It takes him 45 minutes to cover 400 yards. His muscles cramp, his lungs burn. Salt water stings his cracked lips and tongue. But he reaches the shallows and stands on solid ground for the first time in 36 hours. He collapses on the beach, vomiting seawater. Guards round up survivors. They count them. Of the 750 men who entered the forward hold in Manila, 286 have survived the sinking. The others are dead, drowned, or missing. The guards march survivors inland to a tennis court near a Japanese naval base. The concrete surface radiates heat. There is no shade. There is no water. The guards surround the tennis court with machine guns and orders. Anyone who moves will be shot. John sits on the hot concrete and watches the sunset. His body is shutting down. He has not had water in 40 hours. He has not eaten in 50. His kidneys have stopped producing urine. His heart beats irregularly. He is dying, slowly but certainly. Next to him, Colonel Schwartz whispers a plan. After dark, Schwartz says, some of us are going to rush the fence, get to the jungle, find food and water. They'll shoot you, John replies. Better than dying of thirst. At 2200, 12 men make the attempt. They rise as one and sprint toward the fence. Machine guns open fire immediately. Tracers cut through the darkness. Bodies fall. Screams echo across the tennis court. When the shooting stops, all 12 men are dead. The guards leave the bodies where they fell as a warning. The prisoners spend the night with corpses at the fence line, their blood seeping into the concrete cracks. December 15, 1944, 500, Subic Bay. Guards bring water. 2 buckets for 286 men. A riot ensues. Men fight like animals, clawing and biting. The strong drink, the weak die. John gets 3 mouthfuls. It is the most delicious liquid he has ever tasted. At 0800, new ships arrive. The Oryoku Maru and the Brazil Maru, both requisition transport vessels. Guards force prisoners to board. They are more careful this time, dividing prisoners between ships and leaving the hatches partially open for ventilation. Conditions are still brutal, but no longer immediately lethal. John boards the Oryoku Maru. The hold is cleaner than the Oryoku Maru, though still crowded. Approximately 400 prisoners share the space. They receive water twice daily and rice once daily. Men stop dying quite so quickly. The ships depart Subic Bay at 1400, continuing north toward Taiwan. The voyage takes 3 days. During this time, 23 more prisoners die from injuries, infections, and organ failure caused by extreme dehydration. Their bodies are buried at sea. December 18, 1944, 10 o'clock. Takao Harbor, Taiwan. The ships anchor. Guards allow prisoners on deck briefly. John sees mountains in the distance, green and beautiful. He sees Taiwanese dock workers watching curiously. He sees Japanese supply ships being loaded with munitions. The prisoners remain aboard for 16 days. During this time, they live in the holds, receiving minimal food and water. Dysentery spreads rapidly. Medical supplies are non-existent. Men die daily from treatable conditions. John develops a fever. His temperature climbs above 103 degrees. He sweats through his rags and shivers uncontrollably. Colonel Schwartz, who has somehow obtained aspirin from a sympathetic guard, shares 2 tablets. It is enough to break the fever. John survives. January 3, 1945, 11 o'clock. Takao Harbor. Air raid sirens wail across the port. American B-24 bombers from the 5th Air Force appear overhead. They have come to destroy the Japanese supply ships. Bombs fall. The first wave hits a munitions ship 200 yards away. The explosion is catastrophic. A mushroom cloud rises over the harbor. The shock wave rocks the Oryoku Maru. Windows shatter. Men are thrown across the hold. The second wave targets the Oryoku Maru directly. A 500-pound bomb strikes the aft hold, where approximately 300 prisoners are confined. The explosion kills them instantly, vaporizing some, crushing others beneath collapsing steel. Blood and body parts spray across the remaining survivors. John is in the forward hold. The bulkhead between him and the bomb blast holds, but barely. Shrapnel tears through the steel, killing 15 men around him. He feels something hot slice across his left arm. When he looks down, he sees a 4-inch gash bleeding freely. He tears a strip from his shirt and ties it as a tourniquet. The bombing continues for 30 minutes. When it stops, the Oryoku Maru is a wreck. The aft hold is a charnel house. Of the 300 men confined there, only 15 survive. The rest are dead or dying beneath tons of twisted metal. Guards eventually remove survivors from the damaged ship and transfer them to the Brazil Maru. Of the 1619 men who boarded the Oryoku Maru in Manila on December 13th, only 450 remain alive on January 4th. They will travel to Japan in the Brazil Maru. January 5th, 1945. The Brazil Maru departs Takao Harbor. The voyage to Japan will take 9 days. During this time, another 150 prisoners will die. Their bodies are thrown overboard without ceremony. Sharks follow the ship, feeding on the corpses. John has stopped counting days. He exists in a state between life and death, his body functioning on pure survival instinct. He eats when food appears. He drinks when water appears. He sleeps when exhaustion overwhelms him. He no longer thinks about home, family, or the future. There is only now, only the next breath, only the stubborn refusal to die. The Brazil Maru enters the Sea of Japan on January 10. The temperature drops precipitously. Tropical clothing offers no protection against the freezing wind. Men huddle together for warmth. Some develop frostbite, others develop pneumonia. The dying continues. January 14, 1945. The Brazil Maru docks at Moji, Japan. Guards order survivors onto the pier. They stumble down the gangplank, skeletal figures in rags. Japanese civilians stop and stare. Children point. Some laugh. Others look away, uncomfortable with the sight. Of the 1619 American prisoners who boarded the Oryoku Maru in Manila 32 days ago, only 300 reached Japan alive. John M. Jacobs is among them. He has lost 60 pounds. He has dysentery, malaria, and infected wounds. But he is alive. Guards march survivors to a train station. They are loaded into boxcars and transported north to various prison camps. John is sent to Fukuoka Camp 17, a mining camp where prisoners work underground extracting coal. He will remain there until August 15, 1945, when Emperor Hirohito announces Japan's surrender. During his time at Fukuoka, John works 12-hour shifts in the mines. He receives 600 calories per day, barely enough to sustain life. He watches 53 more prisoners die from mining accidents, starvation, and disease. He survives through luck, stubbornness, and the occasional kindness of civilian miners who secretly share food. August 15, 1945, 12 o'clock. Fukuoka Camp 17. Guards assemble prisoners and announce the war is over. They do not apologize. They do not explain. They simply walk away, leaving prisoners to fend for themselves. American bombers drop supply packages 3 days later. Food, medicine, clothing. John eats chocolate for the first time in 3 years. It makes him violently ill. His stomach has shrunk too much to process rich food. He learns to eat slowly, carefully, rebuilding his digestive system one small meal at a time. September 2, 1945. U.S. Navy ships arrive at Japanese ports to evacuate prisoners. John boards the USS Rescue, a hospital ship. Medical personnel examine him and record his condition. Severe malnutrition, chronic dysentery, malaria, multiple untreated infections, psychological trauma. They estimate his survival was unlikely. They call him a miracle. John does not feel miraculous. He feels empty, hollow. He has survived, but at what cost? He has seen the worst of humanity. He has watched good men die terrible deaths. He has lost faith in the world's basic goodness. The voyage to San Francisco takes 3 weeks. John spends most of it sleeping, his body finally allowed to rest after 43 months of constant stress. When he wakes, he eats. When he's full, he sleeps again. The doctors call it recovery. John calls it existing. October 1st, 1945, San Francisco Harbor. The USS Rescue docks at Pier 39. Crowds line the waterfront, waving flags and cheering. Bands play patriotic songs, a hero's welcome for returned prisoners of war. John walks down the gangplank slowly, his legs still weak. A Red Cross volunteer hands him a telegram. It is from his mother in Omaha. She has been notified of his survival. She will meet him at the train station. He boards a train east. He watches America pass outside the window. Fields and mountains and cities. Everything looks so normal, so peaceful. People go about their lives with no idea what he has seen, what he has survived. He feels disconnected from them, separated by an experience they cannot comprehend. October 4, 1945, Omaha, Nebraska. John's mother waits on the platform. She does not recognize him at first. The man who walks toward her weighs 120 pounds. The son who left in 1941 weighed 180. But she knows his eyes. She rushes forward and embraces him. "You're home," she whispers. "You're finally home." But John is not home. His body is in Nebraska, but his mind remains in the hold of the Oryoku Maru, in the water off Subic Bay, in the tennis court prison, in the frozen hell of the Sea of Japan. He is home, but he will never truly leave those places. The nightmares begin immediately. Every night, John dreams of drowning. He dreams of thirst so intense it burns like fire. He dreams of darkness and heat and the smell of rotting bodies. He wakes screaming, drenched in sweat, his heart racing. His mother suggests he talk to someone. The Army provides no psychological services for returned prisoners. The concept of post-traumatic stress disorder will not be recognized for another 30 years. John is expected to simply move on, to resume his life as if nothing happened. He tries. He returns to his old job at a trucking company. He drives routes through Nebraska and Iowa, the familiar roads soothing in their predictability. But he cannot interact with other drivers. He cannot make small talk. He sits alone during lunch breaks, eating mechanically, tasting nothing. He begins drinking. Whiskey mostly, cheap and strong. It silences the memories, at least temporarily. It allows him to sleep without dreams. His mother watches with helpless concern as her son drowns himself one bottle at a time. In 1947, John meets another survivor at a veterans gathering, Colonel Jack Schwartz, who shared aspirin in the hold of the Oryoku Maru. They recognize each other instantly, though neither speaks. What is there to say? They know. They were there. They understand in ways no one else can. Over the following years, John begins attending survivors' gatherings, small groups of men who shared the Oryoku Maru experience. They sit in church basements and VFW halls, drinking coffee and sharing memories they can tell no one else. The gatherings are not therapy. They are simply acknowledgement. We survived. We remember. We bear witness. In 1952, the United States and Japan signed the Treaty of San Francisco, formally ending the state of war. Japan agrees to pay reparations for war crimes. Survivors of the Hellships submit claims. John receives $17,000 in compensation. He donates it to a scholarship fund for children of prisoners who did not survive. Blood money, he calls it. He wants nothing to do with it. The Japanese government never officially apologizes for the treatment of prisoners during the war. Individual guards are tried at war crimes tribunals. Some are executed. Others serve prison sentences. Many escape prosecution entirely, their crimes lost in the chaos of post-war Japan. Captain Toshino Junsaburo, who commanded the Oryoku Maru voyage, commits suicide in 1946 before he can be tried. Lieutenant Hayashi Yoshio, who ordered prisoners shot at Subic Bay, is hanged in 1948. But most guards simply disappear into civilian life, their war records conveniently lost or destroyed. John marries in 1955. His wife, Sarah, knows he was a prisoner but does not know details. He cannot bring himself to tell her. She learns to live with his silences, his nightmares, his occasional disappearances into the bottle. She stays because she loves him, but also because she understands, instinctively, that he is broken in ways she cannot fix. They have no children. John cannot imagine bringing life into a world capable of such cruelty. Sarah grieves this privately, but never pushes. Some wounds are too deep to heal. In 1965, John receives a letter from the National Archives. They are collecting records and testimonies from Hellship survivors for historical preservation. Would he be willing to provide a statement? He agrees. Over 3 days, he sits with the government stenographer and tells his story. Everything. The heat, the thirst, the deaths, the bombing, the swimming, the tennis court, the continuation of horror. The stenographer, a middle-aged woman who has transcribed countless military records, excuses herself twice to vomit. When John finishes, she asks, "How did you survive?" He has no answer. Luck? Stubbornness? Some biological advantage in his kidney function or heat tolerance? He survived while better men died. There is no meaning in it, no lesson. He survived. That is all. The transcription becomes part of National Archives document RG 407, Records of the Adjutant General's Office, World War II Operations Reports. It sits in a box in a warehouse in Maryland, alongside thousands of other testimonies. Evidence of atrocities that most Americans prefer to forget. In 1972, John retires from trucking. He and Sarah move to a small house outside Omaha. He gardens, he watches television, he tries to live normally. But normal is impossible for a man who has seen what he has seen. The survivors' gatherings continue annually. Each year, fewer men attend. Death takes them slowly, one by one. Heart disease, cancer, old age. By 1980, only 37 survivors remain. By 1990, only 12. By 2000, only 3. John is not one of them. He dies on March 14, 1998, at the age of 78. The death certificate lists cause of death as heart failure, which is technically accurate. But the truth is more complicated. John died in December 1944 in the hold of the Oryoku Maru. His body simply took 54 years to accept this fact. His funeral is small, Sarah, now elderly herself, a few veterans from the local VFW post, a representative from the National Archives who brings a letter of commendation from the Secretary of Defense. The letter praises John's service and sacrifice. It mentions his Purple Heart, his Bronze Star, his Prisoner of War Medal. It does not mention the Oryoku Maru. It does not mention the Hellships. Some things are too terrible to memorialize. Sarah dies 2 years later. She leaves John's military records and personal papers to the National Archives, adding to the documentation of the Oryoku Maru tragedy. Researchers occasionally access these records, piecing together the full horror of what happened in December 1944. The Oryoku Maru itself lies at the bottom of Subic Bay, 40 feet of water covering the rusted wreck. Divers have explored it, finding bones and personal effects still scattered through the cargo holds. The Philippine government has declared it a war grave, protected by law. It will remain undisturbed, a tomb for the hundreds who died there. In Japan, the sites of former prison camps have mostly disappeared. Fukuoka Camp 17 was demolished in 1958. The land was redeveloped as a shopping center. The mine shafts were sealed. Nothing marks the location where prisoners died. The Japanese government maintains no memorial, no historical marker, no acknowledgement that Americans suffered and died on that spot. The United States maintains better records but offers little more recognition. The Oryoku Maru is mentioned in some military histories and museum exhibits about the Pacific War, but always as a footnote. The Hellship experience remains largely unknown to the American public. Most people have never heard of the Oryoku Maru, the Enora Maru, or the Brazil Maru. This ignorance serves a purpose. The Hellships are uncomfortable history. They complicate the narrative of American victory in World War II. They remind us that war is not only heroic battles and noble sacrifices. It is also suffering beyond comprehension, cruelty beyond imagination, death without meaning or dignity. John M. Jacobs understood this. He lived it. He carried it with him every day for 54 years. His story, preserved in National Archives records, stands as testimony to what humans can endure and what they should never have to endure. The records are comprehensive. They include passenger manifests showing all 1619 prisoners who boarded the Oryoku Maru, death certificates for the 1333 who died during the voyage, medical reports from survivors upon reaching San Francisco, sworn testimonies from 127 survivors, photographs of the Oryoku Maru wreck, War Crimes Tribunal transcripts, Japanese military records seized after surrender, Philippine witness statements, maps showing the convoy route, weather reports for December 1944. These documents confirm every detail of John's story. The dates are accurate. The names are real. The death toll is verified. Nothing is exaggerated. Nothing is invented. This happened. The horror of the Hellships lies not in supernatural terror or fictional monsters. It lies in the documented reality of what humans did to other humans. The guards who denied water to dying men were human. The officers who packed 750 prisoners into spaces designed for cargo were human. The pilots who bombed ships filled with prisoners were human, acting on imperfect intelligence. Everyone involved was human. This is the true horror. Not that monsters exist, but that ordinary people, given certain circumstances, become monstrous. The guards on the Oryoku Maru were not psychopaths. Most were ordinary soldiers following orders, caught in a war they did not start. Yet they committed atrocities. They watched men die of thirst while water sat feet away. They shot prisoners trying to escape torture. They laughed at suffering. Understanding this requires confronting uncomfortable truths about human nature. We are capable of both tremendous compassion and terrible cruelty. The same species that creates art and music and literature also creates concentration camps and hellships and genocide. We are not fundamentally good or fundamentally evil. We are fundamentally capable of both. John M. Jacobs survived the Hellship. But did he truly survive? His body lived another 54 years, but his spirit died in the hold of the Oryoku Maru. He existed after the war, but never truly lived. The John who boarded that ship in Manila never came home. The man who returned to Omaha was someone else, someone hollow and haunted. This too is documented. Military psychiatrist noted in his discharge evaluation, patient exhibits symptoms consistent with severe trauma, recommended for continued observation. But no observation occurred. No treatment was provided. John was discharged with his medals and his nightmares, and nothing else. How many other veterans carried similar burdens? How many survivors of hellships, death marches, concentration camps returned home to silence and stigma? The records hint at vast suffering left unacknowledged, unaddressed, untreated. The psychiatric casualties of World War II numbered in the hundreds of thousands. Most received no help. This, too, is part of John's story. Not just what happened to him, but what did not happen afterward. The absence of support, the silence surrounding his suffering, the expectation that he simply move on and be grateful to have survived. But survival is not the same as living. John survived, technically speaking. His heart beat, his lungs drew breath, his body performed the mechanical functions of life. But the essence of John M. Jacobs, the truck driver from Omaha who loved his mother and believed in basic human decency, died in December 1944. What survived was something else, something broken and empty. Sarah understood this, though she never put it into words. In her diary, discovered after her death, she wrote, "I married a ghost. The man I loved died in the war, but his body forgot to stop moving. I stay because even ghosts deserve love, and because sometimes, in the morning light, I see glimpses of who he used to be." These glimpses became rarer over the years. The weight of memory crushed John slowly but inexorably. By his 70s, he barely spoke. He sat for hours staring at nothing, his mind trapped somewhere between Nebraska and the Philippines, between 1998 and 1944. When he died, Sarah said he looked relieved. "Finally at rest," she told the funeral director. She meant it literally. For John, death was not an ending, but a release. Permission to stop fighting, stop surviving, stop carrying the unbearable weight of memory. The National Archives document RG-407 contains one final entry about John M. Jacobs, a letter he wrote in 1989 to a researcher studying the Hellships. It reads, "You ask how I survived. I tell you honestly, I did not survive. I died on that ship with 1,333 other men. My body continued living, but John Jacobs, the man who boarded the Oryoku Maru, died there. What came home to Nebraska was someone else, something else. A collection of memories and nightmares wearing my face. Don't call me a survivor. Survivors are people who overcome their ordeal and move forward. I never moved forward. I'm still there, in the hold, in the heat, watching men die of thirst. I will be there until my body finally admits what my mind has known for 45 years. I am already dead." This letter is the last document in John's file. It requires no additional commentary. It stands as final testimony, the ultimate truth of his experience. The Hellship did not just kill 1,333 men in 6 days. It killed 1,619 men slowly, over decades, as survivors carried their trauma to their graves. This is the story of the Oryoku Maru. This is the story of John M. Jacobs. Every word is true. Every death is documented. Every date is verified. No fiction adorns this narrative. No supernatural horror eclipses the human horror. The terror is real. The suffering is real. The deaths are real. And that is the most horrifying fact of all.